is Jeff Morgan. I am from Dallas, Texas. I was just at a Rockwall GOP breakfast, the Rockwall GOP breakfast. Rockwall GOP breakfast. They had 3 judges that were there today, and they were going to talk about the judicial system in Rockwall and in Texas. One was Judge Brett Hall, and Brett Hall I've actually sat in on a couple of hearings that he was presiding over. He was also the one that actually signed the divorce decree against me. There was a Judge David Rockwall, and there was also a Judge Brian Williams. Now these 3 judges have been there at least for, I believe, 7, 8, 10 years. I don't know exactly how long, but I looked back at some paperwork from 2012, and all of their names were attached to something, so I know that they've been around for quite some time. Usually I've gone in setting up my video equipment. But as I put up the video, I was told that we can't have any video taking place here. We cannot have video equipment because we need to protect the judges. This again was from the Rockwall Men's Breakfast GOP leaders. They were there to protect the judges. So the judges were not talking about any cases. They were just talking about, here's what we do in the courts, here's the way the courts work, the caseloads that they have. There's going to be another court that's coming to Rockwall, and they mentioned a little bit about that. Nothing that was sensitive, but we must protect the judges. We must protect the judges. And of course, one of the individuals who told me this, he was an attorney. His name was Grant. Grant was very concerned that, the judges would be protected. So I was not allowed to videotape, but they did not say anything about audio taping, and they did say that I could take pictures. So I did take some pictures with a camera, and I audio recorded the event. But the interesting thing was, after Judge Brett Hall spoke, and then Judge David Rockwall and Judge Brian Williams, they did ask, they had an open question and answer. And I'm here because I want to talk with the judges about what they do in the state of Texas. In particular, I mentioned the fact that I used to be a person who had some trust in the integrity of the judiciary. And I mentioned that Judge Hall was actually, by being in his court, that I first started to lose my faith in the judiciary. And then as I went into the court with Injustice of the Peace Jack James, Precinct 1, Rockwall, Injustice of the Peace Jack James, Precinct 1, Rockwall, Texas, that's when I lost total faith in the judiciary. This is a widespread issue that a lot of people know, but many people are afraid to talk about. And the GOP in Rockwall was very, very, very afraid to talk about. They did not want me to speak. They let me ask my question. I was also asked to leave the meeting. Several people came up to me and asked me to leave. In fact, one man, his name was Keith Short. Keith Short, speaking on behalf of the Rockwall GOP Men's Breakfast, he told me if I did not leave immediately, he would call the police and I would be trespassing. Keith Short is his name. Keith Short threatened me, and I believe I might have this on audio. I'm not sure. My phone cut off at one point. So perhaps, Keith, maybe I even have your voice on there, threatening me with that if I did not leave immediately, you would call the police. The interesting thing was Jody Mueller was there. Jody's one of these people who drives to some of these meetings, so I let her know about it. She came out there, and the judge told Jody he has a right to be angry. I want to hear what he has to say. So Judge Brett Hall actually wanted to hear what I had to say. It was the Quisling GOP party who was afraid to have an issue like this talked about, and I don't understand this. We are the party of faith, family, and freedom, and yet we are the party that are afraid to talk about these issues. Where in the world is the head of the GOP? Why are they afraid to talk about issues of systematic injustice that destroys families? What are they thinking? Anyway, Judge Brett Hall wanted to talk to me and was very, he let Jody know that he was not the one that had me kicked out. Now, of course, the GOP, they wanted to protect Judge Brett Hall's safety. Judge Brett Hall had no matter of concern with me around. I wanted to talk with him. I talk with other people all the time. I talk with judges, but of course they have to escalate something, and then they have to try to say their fears are because of me. But Judge Brett Hall was the one who said, listen, I want to talk to him. In fact, Judge Brett Hall wanted to know if I was in the parking lot so that I could be called back in so that he could talk to me. Judge Brett Hall wanted to talk to me. It was the leadership of the Republican Party in Rockwall, Texas, who was afraid to talk about the issue. By the way, I've been to many Rockwall events. I used to live in Rockwall, and even this past February or March for Lincoln Days, or whatever it is, Reagan days or something like that. I was there and I gave out my pamphlet on why we should repeal unilateral no-fault divorce. And they know that I talk about this issue all the time. But somehow the GOP is just afraid to talk about the issue. We cannot talk about family court corruption. So these judges said that right now 67% of the cases that they hear, 67% have to do with family law. 67% of the cases have to do with family law. One of the questions that I wanted to know was, in family court, do we have any constitutional protections? We do not. As far as I can tell from my own experience and from court watching with other people, the amendments to our Constitution do not exist. The idea of due process protections or equal protection under the law does not exist in family court. In many instances, the judges will take a course of action which they deem to be right and fair and just, but there's no basis on which the action should be made. So, for example, I asked the judge, I said, this is what you did to me. Could you tell me what my crime was? Could you tell me under insupportability that my ex-wife filed, what was my crime? What did I do that I deserve this? Could you please tell me what my crime was? Well, we can't relitigate things. This is what the GOP is now saying. We can't relitigate things. This is systemic. I'm sorry that it was filled with attorneys and other people like that were there and that they're afraid to address issues of family. But it is systemic in the state of Texas, and we need to start addressing this issue. Our family court judges need to be aware. What was interesting is that Jody talked with one of the family court judges about the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experience. The judge, who'd been there for at least 8 years that I'm aware of, had no knowledge of what this is about. Somehow these judges who have no knowledge about what the ACE is about, somehow they have, once they put on their black robe, they are infused with wisdom from on high. They are wise as God, and they can tell you what the best interest of the child is. They can do all sorts of things. They can deprive you of your constitutional rights. They can do everything possible against you, violating even the Texas state constitution as well, and just get away with it. And there's judicial immunity. But the Rockwall GOP leadership was afraid to talk about the issue. And once again, Keith Short threatened to have me arrested if I did not leave. Now, I am planning to contact Judge Brett Hall. I actually knew Judge Brett Hall's father. Judge Brett Hall was Representative Ralph Hall, and Representative Ralph Hall was one of the longest serving representatives in the House. He died, I think it was last year or something like that. But the first time that I actually took Ralph Hall out to breakfast one time. I did not realize, this is how naive I was, I did not realize that, he had a budget to take his constituents out. So I took him out to breakfast and I paid for it. And so he supposedly was going to give me another breakfast. That never quite happened. But, Judge Ralph Hall wrote me a letter. I may actually give it to, Representative Ralph Hall wrote me a letter, and I may actually give it to Judge Brett Hall so that he can know that, his father was a man of integrity. I'm hoping that Judge Brett Hall will be the same man of integrity. Judge Brett Hall says that we go by the do right rule. We want to do right. He talked about issues and he says we want to be consistent. Well, consistency is good, except if you're consistently bad. But he also said that they hope they get it right. So here is a judge who looks at cases. There's no findings of facts. There's no conclusions of law. He's acting as his own person. He's depriving people of constitutionally guaranteed rights. He's violating the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth, the Fifth, going on down to the 14th Amendment. Most of those amendments are all violated within family court on a regular basis. And but he wants to do right. So I'm hoping that Judge Brett Hall actually will meet with me. In fact, one of the suggestions that I have is that perhaps the judiciary should have a week of recess and meet with the citizens of the state of Texas. In fact, maybe even a month of recess, so that citizens would have a voice. Because the judges presented this wonderful appearance of the courts. You might think that when you die, instead of going to heaven, you hope to go to court. That's how great it is. That's a little bit facetious. But, they gave us the dog and pony show. Clap, clap, clap. Now let's talk to the people that are the victims, the multiple victims. The family court judges are the abortionists. as far as I'm concerned, of the family law industry. I wonder if these family court judges would be as honest as Abby Johnson. When Abby Johnson found out what took place with abortion, how many people she was responsible for encouraging to have abortions, how many babies were killed, 22,000. She broke down, she wept, she cried, she left the industry immediately. I'm wondering if these judges would be able to face the reality of the devastation and damage that they have caused, and if so, what would their response be? Let's just move on and pretend it didn't happen? Would there be an apology to the people? Would we see judges openly weeping? Would we see judges actually advocating for reform to what's going on in the state of Texas? I don't know what these judges would do. I don't even think that they have any clue to the damage they cause. When they, for example, in divorce, it's not just between two people. They are destroying families. They are destroying children. They are destroying grandchildren. They are destroying family bonds, and they think nothing of it. And again, in many instances, for no reason, with no findings of facts, no conclusions of law, having no clue what insupportability means, having no clue what the best interest of the child is. In fact, it was interesting because Attorney Grant, I don't know his last name, but Attorney Grant, I hope you contact me as you promised to do so. I asked him, I showed him my divorce decree. Tell me, what was my fault? Well, it's insupportability. I said, so what does that mean? In the Texas Family Code, in section 501 or 051, something like that, we have a duty to support, a duty to support. So what part of my duty was I not fulfilling? And basically it comes down to that if you're not providing money for the marriage and somebody else has to do so, you may owe them money. That's the duty of support. But insupportability, what is insupportability? The Attorney Grant could not even tell me what insupportability meant. But of course, he said, but you can appeal this. Well, of course, Attorney Grant is an attorney. That would be the logical solution for him. Because if you appeal it, you of course have to employ another attorney. That's more money for the industry. Attorney Grant, sorry, but that is the wrong answer. Attorney Grant says that he believes in the United States Constitution and the amendments. I wonder if Attorney Grant will be honest enough to evaluate the Texas Family Code practices in the state of Texas, and look at them and really question, are they constitutional? They are not. They stink, they reek, and they are completely unconstitutional. Anyway, that's it. We will have videos coming out later on and audio of the meeting. I hope that I picked up the audio well and that I can amplify it enough that others will be able to participate in the meeting alongside with us. Thank you.